All right. Don't you love the technical difficulties, everybody? Happy Saturday. We had a little bit of a technical difficulties here for a second, had to restart the computer, but welcome. Here we are, 2025, and we're going to be talking about is now really a good time to buy a home or is it not? Right? So be aware that if your screen is tiny, just double click with your mouse and that will enlarge the screen so you can see. And then if you want to exit and go back to the original screen, you could just hit your escape button. So there we are. So let's talk a little bit. One of the things that we're not going to really talk about so much is rates because you know what? Look, they are what they are and we don't have control over. What do we really have control over? Well, what we do, right? They say that life is 1% of what happens to you and 99% of it is how you react to the 1% of the things that happen to you. It's open mouths get fed, right? You got to put action into it. And a lot of times, if we're really honest, right? If you make tough decisions up front, your life gets easier. But if you make continuously just easy decisions up front, then your life is going to be very, very difficult. So today we're going to talk about, does this make sense, right? Does it make sense to buy a home today? One thing that I want to bring up really quick is let's take a look at 2008, because 2008 was a major year, right? It was a major year where most people, if we're honest, were not going to buy homes, right? They really just decided, I'm not going to do this because everybody was melting down and everybody was running towards the hills, either foreclosing, they were getting loan modifications, or they were doing short sales, or they were doing what is called cash for keys. Just basically, give me some money, I'll give you the keys. Bank, take it back, right? So let's take a look at what happened. If you decided to buy a home, for example, in New York back in 2008, the median price was $440,000. Look at what that median home price is today in 2025, $1.6 million. So they've already done the math here in this article, 264% increase. So guess what the people who made a lot of money did back in 2008? They bought homes when everybody else was running towards the hills. In Miami, back then it was $323,000, $784,000, right, was the median price. Today, it's $584,695, a gain of 81%. In San Francisco, which is where we're at, your median price back then was $600,000. Now it's close to $1.3 million, right? So $1,242,637. So this is what we call contrarian thinking. Contrarian thinking says we do the opposite of what all the masses are doing. And if you look at this little investor, which you may have heard of, his name is Warren Buffett. That's how he got very wealthy, because he buys properties, or not properties, but businesses that might be not doing so great and everybody's running towards the hills, but he knows that fundamentally they are good investments. Real estate is one of those investments that, first off, we all need shelter, right? Number two, it's one of those investments that you can sleep in. You get tax write-offs for the mortgage interest and property taxes, and you get all the upside. What's the upside? It's called equity. Think about this for a second. When you go to buy a house, even if you're putting a robust 20% down, the bank is the one who has the most skin in this game. They're giving you 80% of the value of that property. But guess what? You don't have to pay them 80% of the equity when you sell it. You get to keep all that, right? And there's what's called the capital gains exemption, which we may or may not talk about later on, or we could talk in a one-on-one, because you can book an appointment with us and we'll get very granular and specific to your situation. But think about that. Where else can you sleep in an investment, get the tax write-offs, and also get all the upside with 20% or less of your own skin in the game? You don't see that. You just don't see any other investment doing that. So another slide that I wanted to show you real quick is, take a look at this. So Freddie Mac says that between April of 1971 and February 2025, here's what you need to know about rates. I'm not going to show you the whole chart of what they were on each year, but look at this. The average fixed 30-year mortgage rate was 7.73%. If you talk to your parents, forget about the grandparents. If you talk to your parents, they'll tell you that in the 80s, they were buying houses with double-digit interest rates. That is a fact. I remember that in 81, it went up all the way up to 21%, the 30-year fixed mortgage. Paul Volcker, the tallest Fed chairman ever, was the Fed chair. And that same year, by the way, rates came back down to 11 to 13%. And you swear there were block parties because they all thought that was free money at 11 to 13%. And here we are, complaining we are in the sixes now. I do believe, because Fannie Mae also put this out in an article, that by the end of the year will probably be between low to mid sixes. This last year, by the way, guys, or not last year, this last week was super tumultuous. There's been a lot of volatility in the markets. On Wednesday, the Consumer Price Index came out, and it came out almost double what all the analysts, which are, the brainiacs, left brain people, doing all the metrics and the numbers and making forecasts. It came in twice what they thought. And so rates went up quite a bit. We were at like 7.25% for a 30-year fix. Then the next day, what happens? PPI, which is the producer price index. It's more on the commercial side, manufacturing, those kind of things, came in, and there were cracks in that report, showing that maybe, inflation is in fact not going up as fast and maybe coming down even more. And rates came back down. Yesterday, Friday, rates came back down again. So we're back, in the nice sixes right now. All this to say that action is always going to win. I'm sure you've heard this statement before, and I'm only going to mention it once because it's kind of boring to hear it again, but it's true. Right now, you have to marry the property and date the rate. What does that mean? Right now, there's a great opportunity for you to go out and negotiate price, because here's what happens when rates are this volatile, or there's instability, which we see a lot of instability, right? Economically, politically. Guess what people do? Your competition. They stay home. They don't take action. Most people just decide that they're going to allow fear to take over their decision making, and they stay home and they're not going to do anything. What does that mean? That means that there's less competition out there right now. And Jose is going to talk about this here in a second when I introduce him. But right now, there's more inventory because we're in the spring session of real estate, right? And there's going to be more inventory, but there's going to be less competition, which means it gives you, the buyer, the opportunity to go ahead and negotiate price. When rates continue to come back down, at a certain point, you can go ahead and refinance. But in the meantime, build some equity and get your tax write-offs, because that same house is going to cost more the longer you wait. It's a fact. Look what I showed you if you bought in 2008 compared to what that property is worth today, right? These are the numbers. The numbers don't lie. It's one of the reasons why I love being in the mortgage business, because I'm very left-brained as well. I don't like allowing emotion to run my decision-making. I allow numbers to. All right, so with that said, I want to introduce you the GOAT of real estate here, Jose Monar with the Halen Group. Jose, how long have you been in the business, man? Tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, God. Well, I started back in 2007. I used to be in the hospitality business before, and I used to be a director in one of the hotels in San Francisco, and we had the big union walkout. And so basically all of us managing directors had to move into the hotel and basically live and work there for, I think it was like about 3 months. And after that, I was like, that's it. I got to get out. So I've been in the business since 2007. I started off helping out the team, like actually the mortgage side. Didn't like it that much, so I switched over to real estate. So since 2007 till now. I've done, of course, residential. I've done land. I've done commercial, and it's been an interesting ride. So as Ed, we both have lots of years of experience, and we pretty much have seen it all. And that's why we're here, because but between the experience that we both have, we can definitely help you get into the opportunity of getting real estate, and pursue that.
Excellent, man. Do you have real estate in your blood? Your parents, is there anywhere in any generation that were in real estate at some point?
Uh, no, I mean, actually, I studied economics, so that's kind of like my
Okay.
thing. So that's why I've always been a numbers guy, and then I always,
Okay.
the reason went to real estate is because I always thought, okay, what is the biggest thing that I can help someone economically and in their life, and of course, real estate is the biggest thing that someone's going to be doing transaction that they're going to be doing in their life, right?
Yeah. Biggest
So yeah,
investment.
so that's why I did real estate.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. Perfect. One of the things that I want to do before you get hot and heavy into the presentation is talk about a little bit about some stories, because stories are important, that you guys understand that people are doing these things. I wanted to jump off really quickly with a story that I had that just completely floored me, man. And by the way, those of you who don't know me, my name is Diaz. I've been in the mortgage business for 24 years. And before that, I was a money manager and I was a banker. I've done a lot of things in the quote unquote finance and banking world, 36 years. So I have a lot of experience, and I've seen a lot of things. And the reason why I jumped into real estate, because number one, I got to see what buying a home when my mom bought her home, what that did for us, how it changed the game. Number one, taking the landlord out of the picture and having more control over your finances in your life really is a game changer. But I remember we had that collective sigh of relief where it's like, we don't have a landlord anymore telling us what to do and potentially raising the rents to the point where we can't afford it anymore. Then where do we go, right? Plus, we weren't really building anything. There was no equity. There was no write-offs, none of that. Because when you rent, you're still working for the IRS, which, by the way, the average employee in the United States works 4 months out of the year to pay taxes, which means you're a part-time IRS worker, right? You don't want to do that. And I'm sure you've looked at your gross pay compared to your net pay on your pay stubs, and you say, whoa, that gap is huge. I got to do something, right? So here's the story that I had. I have a lady from El Salvador. I had talked. She calls me up, and this was end of November last year. She calls me up, leaves me a message saying, in Spanish. And one of the things she said is, you probably don't even remember me, but I put notes in my database. And so I went back and looked her up, and I remembered, because I wrote the little story about her. She came from El Salvador, cleaning homes, had a son, that sort of thing. And so I called her back and we started talking, right? Turns out that she put the son through college, right? And then she went from cleaning homes to some of those people that she cleaned the homes were business owners who then hired her to clean their offices. So she went from residential cleaning to also cleaning offices, right? So she moved up the ladder. But she said, the reason why I'm calling is for two reasons. Number one, I wanted to thank you again for helping me overcome my own fear. I don't know if you remember that conversation, she said, but when I talked to you originally, I was honest up front and I said, look, the only reason why I'm calling you is because my best friend won't stop bugging me. Just talk to him. He's not going to sell you anything. He's not going to put you in the Amway. Just have a conversation with him, right? And when I talked to her, she said, look, I'll be honest. The only reason why I'm calling is because of my best friend won't stop bugging me. I don't really think I could buy a home. And I asked her the question, do you remember when you left El Salvador? She said, yeah, of course. Why did you leave when that's your home? It's all you know, going to this gigantic land called the United States where you don't know the language. You have very little money to go there. She said, well, I'm doing it for my son because I want to give him a brighter future, right? Much like my mom did as well. And I said, that's exactly why you're going to buy a home. And she said that she remembers that conversation, and me saying that to her really was a game changer, and it hit her so hard because she hadn't thought about tying the home to an actual long-term goal of building a better future and overcoming fear for the greater good. Well, so here's the end story here. Then she says to me, and guess what? I'm going back to El Salvador. I'm going to retire. She goes, but here's the difference is that I'm taking with me close to $1 million of equity. And I'm building a 10,000 square foot home in San Salvador, which is the capital of El Salvador. And the irony, she says, is that now I have people cleaning my house. And it's just, it's these kind of stories, Jose. And I know you have one or two that maybe you want to share, that it's the reason why we're in this business and why we're doing this, for example, on a Saturday, right? Because we could be doing other things. But we really have the heart. If there's anything you take away from some of these metrics and things that we're going to talk about today, is that we are your true advocates. We are here for the right reasons, and we have the experience, we have the heart, and we have the commitment to help those who really want the help and who will not give up, are relentless at pursuing this, who want to buy a home. We will get you there, no doubt about it. And here's our pledge. If you cannot do it today for whatever reason, then we will prepare you. We're not going to abandon you. We're going to continue to coach you and prepare you until you buy this home in the near future. So, Jose, do you want to share a story?
Yeah, actually, I got a couple, but the one that stands out the most is that I remember there was a couple in Hayward, young couple. They had two kids. I mean, the kids, they were probably about maybe 3 years old and 2 years old, and luckily this was during when the market was at the bottom. But even then, I mean, they were having difficult times just to get a loan. So I got them in. So first they got an FHA loan. Then they got the CHDAP, the California Down Assistance Program. So they actually basically had to come in with maybe 0.5% of down payment. And they got in, and the house was in terrible condition. But, they didn't care. They're like, we're going to get in. And I told them, I said, little by little, you guys can be, fixing the house and stuff like that. And it'll be good for you. So I kept in touch with them for a couple of times and stuff like that. And then I kind of lost track of them. And then they reached out to me maybe 10 years later. They're like, Jose, you remember me? I'm like, yeah. I said, hey, how's it going? He says, yeah, kids are getting ready to get out of high school. They're getting ready to go to college. So now we're going to buy a triplex. I said, okay. So then after that, I helped them buy a triplex, and now they're doing well, and they're building equity, and hopefully they'll be buying something else soon. And in regards to also about the lady what you were talking about, you reminded me of my mom because when I was born in New York, and then the weather was really bad in New York, so we moved to Southern California. So we used to live in a town called Rosemead, which is about 15 miles east of Los Angeles. And so we used to live in this complex where there was 4 little different houses, and we were the furthest house in the back. So my mom has always been one of those type of persons that she says, if you can have it for yourself, that way you get your own stuff. That way you don't have to borrow anything from anybody. Always have your own stuff. So she used to paint. She painted the house. She loves flowers, roses. She had the rose garden and everything, even though we were renting. And but she always had. She says, I want my own house, because that was the way she was brought up. When before we decided to move from there, the owner sold the whole complex, and it was funny that the owner would come and show only our house, not the other tenants, only our house, because our house was the most fixed up. It was painted. It had roses. I mean, everything was. My mom maintained it like it was her house. So of course the owner, got a really good price, because they thought that the other units were in the same condition, and she had given my mom, I think it was 6 months free rent, because of the way we maintain our house. So yes, I mean, it's just it's stuff like that it affects you positively. And then of course my parents bought the house in another area, and at that time it was 18% interest rate. But yeah, I mean, that's how they got started.
There you go. I mean, look, everybody's got a story, right? I mean, look, even some of the folks that are trying to buy now remember what happened to them in 2008, and there was a lot of bad advice also going on. But look, the key is to learn how to dust yourself off, right? And just keep going, because we have all these stories of people who just refused to quit, right? And they just savagely continue to pursue those goals and those dreams, and those are the ones that end up on top. I mean, I've studied so many entrepreneurs, and they all have kind of the same stories, right, Jose? Some of our clients who bought homes, they all have stories of sleeping in their cars or couch surfing at friends' houses and stuff before, they founded businesses, and now, they're doing extremely, extremely well. But the key is knowing that if you want to go to heaven, you got to die. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Well, guess what that means is that you got to go through tough times. I really believe, and I embrace tough times, and I'll tell you why, because I really believe that it creates the 2.0 version of yourself. You learn and you get better as a person. Very few lessons are garnered when everything's perfect and everything's going great and you're doing great financially, nothing can go wrong. You just kind of coast, right? As opposed to when times are tough, it's kind of like sandpaper. It really it smooths you out. Excellent, man. So what do you have for us on the real estate stats side?
So basically what I did is I took a year snapshot of the counties, and then like their predominant city that is for that county. So let me go in here real quick. And so this is all for the Bay Area. We already talked about that. So let's talk about here like Alameda County. If you see this right here, it's the price per square foot, and then the average days on market. So if you see on the left column right here, it's the price per square foot, and then the average days on market is on the right side. The blue columns are the price per square foot average, and then on the right is the average days on market. So it's interesting here. The real estate is kind of seasonal. I mean, I'm sure Ed talks about that. Knows this very well. During the winter time, it slows down, and so there's more opportunities to buy. And during the springtime is when everyone is buying a house because they want to relocate because the kids are going to be starting school next year. So that's kind of like the time that people look to buy a house. And as you can tell here, the average price per square foot went up. So here it's gone up to like it was like 800 here in Alameda. And it just kind of tapers down after that to the end to here like December, January. But what's interesting right here is that if you look at the days on market, the days on market means how many average days a house stays on the market from listing date to the day it gets on contract. And here you see a rise in days on market. So it starts here in the summer, but of course, spring and summer, which there's more activity. And it starts increasing, and now it's starting to get higher than last year. We're like about 35. So that means that there's more inventory on the market because, of course, like what Ed was saying, is there's more uncertainty because of political or just financial reasons of what's going on in the market. So here's Alameda. We're at those numbers. Pleasanton obviously is a very desirable area. Pleasanton's kind of the prices have stabilized. Actually, the market on this one is starting to get a little hot. So as you see, the days on market went down dramatically. So, and I'll just keep going through here real quick. See, there's Santa Clara County. Santa Clara County, of course, is one of the more expensive areas because of Silicon Valley. It's averaging about $1,200 per square foot, or a little bit less. Of course, this depends on the city and the area. I mean, Palo Alto is a much more higher than like San Jose. But yeah, so this is kind of the average. San Jose, here's where we're at. We're about $1,000 a square foot. And it seems like the days it was speaking in December. So now it looks like the people are getting back in to start buying, but it hasn't gone down much yet. So there's more activity. Here in San Mateo County, again, it was, I guess, this right here, like October, November, December, this is off. I imagine it's from the election. So the uncertainty. So that's why houses were on the market for a longer time. But now since the election's over, the days on market has gone down. So there's less inventory. But the good thing is that the prices are still hovering around 1,200. So if you can get in, you can get in. Contra Costa, Prices are starting to steadily come down. They're about 500 per square foot, a little over, but the days on market are creeping up. Now we're at 40. Let's see what happens here in February. Contra Costa might be a good area to start looking in. And of course, this is out here in the Central Valley. Central Valley is different than the Bay Area. This spike right here in the middle must have been a single family or a couple of homes that were really expensive. That's why we have the spike here. But it's kind of flat, and the days on market have gone up. So of course, my analogy is that if you're making the kind of money that you're making like in Silicon Valley, you can buy an investment property. You don't have to even leave the state. You can buy here like in San Joaquin Valley. I mean, look at this. You're at about less than $400 per square foot per house compared to $1,200 in other areas like in Silicon Valley. So, and of course here the days on market have gone up. Stockton market kind of stable, about $300 a square foot. The days on market have gone up, so there's more inventory. Oops. Stanislaus County in general, we're about 300. Days on market are creeping up again. Modesto, which is one of the bigger cities in Stanislaus County, it's pretty flat, but days on market is starting to creep up. So this is going to become a buyer's market here soon. And then Los Baños, it kind of spikes sometimes. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. Average about about 200, 250 somewhere per square foot, and about 40 days on market right now. It's starting to spike up a little bit. And so yeah, so that's basically it. Is that depends on what area you're looking in. There seems to be a lot more opportunities, more days on market, so there's more opportunities. And prices have not really fluctuated that much. So as Ed was saying, is that marry the property, not the rate, and try to find the house that works for you. And I know it's a struggle now because I understand the prices are going to have gone up a lot, but historically, you ask any one of your relatives, any of your grandparents or your parents, or would they not have bought a house? I think I would say the majority of them, 90% at least, would say, yeah, I would have made a mistake if I didn't buy that house.
Yeah. I have in the private chat, by the way, here, Jose, I have a question here that says, what do you predict the inventory is going to look like in the next 30 to 60 days?
Well, it depends on the area, right? Technically, California in general is short on housing. But I think, over here in the Central Valley, prices are, inventory is going to creep up. I don't know if prices are going to go down that much, but as you see, they're pretty steady. In the peninsula and, Santa Clara, San Jose, San Mateo, inventory has always been a problem. So, prices have gone up, and but they're pretty much plateaued in that area too. So,
but let's be honest, man. Everybody acts like inventory is anemic in the last. It sounds like in the last year or so, it's become a problem. Guys, I've been doing this for 24 years. We've been talking about a shortage of inventory since I got in this business.
Yeah.
I've never seen it where it's like, we have way too much inventory compared to the amount of human beings in the United States. I've never seen that. We're appreciating at about 6% here in California. So think about this. I want because again, numbers don't lie. If you bought $1 million house today, what's 6%? 60,000. That's like a part-time job that you don't show up to. Think about it. And by the way, you're making that money passively as you're sleeping in it. These are the things that I really want you to think about. Great presentation. Thank you very much. I do have another question here. So, okay. So buying a home, single family versus a condo, what do you recommend?
Well, the thing is, they both have plus and minuses, right? A condo, so the HOA will take care of all the exterior things, the roof, the common areas and all that stuff. But the appreciation is not gonna be much there. And plus, you're paying the homeowners association. And if you're a person that is very sensitive to sleeping, that you want it super quiet, or you have big dogs or anything like that, it's not going to work out for you. So
that's a good point. That's a very good point. However, price points are lower technically than single family. So if you cannot buy a single family, don't kiss away real estate. Just get a condo, let it appreciate, sell it, and get your house, right?
If you can get into a condo or a townhouse, a townhouse might work also.
Yeah, townhouse, right?
Yeah.
Good point.
The only thing is with a single family, of course, it'll appreciate more, but you do also have to, maintenance of, if the roof needs to be changed or whatever, then you need to have to be aware of that. My preference, of course, it would be a house.
Yeah, of course. I think most people do prefer a home, but like I said, if you cannot buy a home, a couple things to consider. Either you buy a condo with a lower price point, or you buy units, meaning a 2 or 3 or 4 unit property. Did you know that you can leverage the rents on the other units? Yes, you can. And you know what? And sometimes those units don't even have to be rented out yet, right? We could talk about that again. These details are more on a one-on-one where we do a strategy call with you. If you notice here, scrolling, it says email us for your complimentary strategy call. And we go into hot and heavy in the details of what the different options and get creative if we need to with your situation.
So there's
hold on a second. I got a Morgan Roberts asking, is it better to build a home or buy pre-existing nowadays? Oh, that's a good question, Morgan.
So from my experience, I would say buy a pre-existing. The reason being is because going through the whole permit process, it depends on the city, but even the more lenient cities, it could take you 6 months to a year, and then the labor cost of building a house from the ground up is very high. There are some areas where you can actually buy a house that's already existing, that it would cost you less than building it from scratch. In like Los Baños and those areas. Of course, I mean, if you want to build your, a custom home that you want, to
that's
your
different
occasion, I want a modern, or I want a Mediterranean, or whatever you saw. Then of course, then that's a different story.
Well, and also too, just to jump in, if your budget is nice and robust, because what ends up happening when you build, typically it takes longer than they say, and it costs more money than they say. You got to build that in. Right? Are you willing to wait longer, or do you need housing like right away? Right? All these things come into play. So it's it just, hate to say this, Morgan, but it actually just does depend. If the longer of a runway of time, and also the longer your money is, meaning your budget is bigger, then it might make more sense to go ahead and build. And again, like Jose said, great points, Jose. If you want specific stuff just to suit your lifestyle versus a already built house, and you don't want to renovate that home, because that's the other part too. Maybe renovate a home, right? Get something that is as close as possible to what you really want, and then you make it your own. That's another thing too, is I personally like buying homes that aren't really done to my specs yet, and they need a little bit of love, because guess what? That's equity, right? That's where I get to bring in my crew, renovate, make it my own, and then add that value to that property.
And exactly. I mean, that's one of the things one of the key points I tell my clients is that, don't worry if the carpet is green, who cares? If the cabinets is bad on the kitchen, who cares? I said what's important is location and also the structure of the house. I mean, the floor plan. If the floor plan and the structure and the location works for you, then everything else is fixable, remodelable, and of course, I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to be cheap, but you can do it to fit your lifestyle.
But to that point, Jose, though, think about this: if you're buying a house that needs some TLC, right?
Mm-hmm.
I rather buy that house, because then I can control the cost of the materials that I want to go in.
Oh yeah,
because I'm already living in it. I'm not in a hurry to go buy a home. And guess what? Your house is appreciating as you own it, which means that it's going up in value as you're renovating it, right? But you still have a place to live, and you're still getting the tax write-offs as you're renovating, versus waiting to do it later on, right? Or
Yeah.
for
So
it to build.
like that example that I gave you about that Hayward couple, they bought the house. You're not gonna believe this. They bought the house. I think it was like $300,000. That house now is about 1.3, somewhere around there.
Well, it's the numbers I gave earlier.
So, I mean,
Right?
Hayward went through some crazy appreciation and like during COVID. I mean,
I
I had
know.
a couple that I think we put in like about 5 different offers, and they always got outbid until they finally got something. But yeah, that's another thing too. That's one very important thing is that when you're making an offer. I mean, so if their inventory is low, you have 5 offers, 8 offers, whatever. Okay, uh, people make the offers, and then they got outbid. So now that means, okay, so there's 8 offers. So there's 7 buyers that are still looking for a house in that general area or for that specific type or whatever it is, whatever characteristics that house has, that they're going to be looking for a house in that area. So now you have to compete with those other 7 people, and guess what? They're going to go higher next time because they don't want to lose. So I tell people is that bite the bullet now, make a strong offer, get in. That way you don't have to wait. Be competing with these 6 or 7 people later on, and they're going to bring up the price anyways. So I mean, bite the bullet now. I know it's people it's difficult to understand that concept, but get in now. Don't wait till later because later on it's going to be more costly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Real estate is not a weight gain. We all know that real estate has gone up no matter what. If you take a long period of time, which, look, if you're going to be alive anyway for 10 years, you might as well make the best use of 10 years because guess what? The last 10 years went by already so fast. Guess what the next 10 years is going to do on you? It's going to be quicker. So real estate is not a weight game. It is a do now if you can. If you can, then don't wait, because the waiting game or trying to time markets is really punishing. And by the way, that also applies not only to real estate, but it also applies to even like the stock market. People who try to time, they get pummeled. I've seen it throughout the decades. It's just not a good deal. I have he's not a client yet. He's been telling me for the last 13 years, he's been trying to convince me that all those 13 years, every year we talk, why it's more important. He said it's better to rent right now than it is. But here's what I know. Right now, 2025, the average net worth of a renter is $9,000 in the United States. Do you know what the average net worth of a homeowner in the United States? Now, we're not just talking about high-priced areas like the Bay Area. We're talking about the whole country, right? Which some parts of the country, our down payments are the prices of their homes. So what is the average net worth of the average homeowner in the United States? It's $400,000. $9,000 versus $400,000. I mean, it's 2 different worlds. These numbers are real numbers. The numbers don't lie. So we've beaten that horse to death. One of the things, and hopefully we answered your question, Morgan. If not, please continue to put in some more questions for us so we can answer those for you. Now I want to jump in to talk about on the lending side, because a lot of times people say, well, man, I just don't have the down payment, or I just don't have enough money. I'd rather wait and save more money. But the problem with saving more money is that as you're saving more money, the price is going up on you also. So guess what? You're still at the same place, right?
And then there's also, remember what we had talked about before, the cost of waiting, right?
The cost of waiting. Yeah. And I actually have a report for all this. I can actually put a report together that says, does it make more sense for you, your situation, to rent or to own, or how much would it cost you if you waited 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be? I can put and we'll put a report together for you to see if it's yes or no, right? Because again, let's be guided by the numbers. So let's talk a little bit about on the financing side. A lot of people get confused the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. They kind of sound the same, but they're not. The pre-qualification is basically just an estimate based on either verbally telling a mortgage person, hey, this is what my assets are, how much money I have to throw at this. Here's where my credit scores are. This is my income. And these are the debts that I have. And they do a quick little math, takes a couple minutes. And this is what I think is the maximum purchase price that you qualify for based on those 4 areas. Because these are the 4 areas that every lender are going to look at your finances in order to get you ready for financing. Okay, so that's the pre-qualification. Those estimates don't really matter much. You know why? Because you've taken out the real decision maker out of this equation, who is the person who decides whether to give you a loan or not. That is called the underwriter at that lender. They need to be looking at not just what you tell them, but they're going to look at documentation. Because, for example, let's look at income. Many times people miscalculate income because they don't look at it through a lender's glass, right? And so what that means is this. For example, let's say you get paid weekly. Well, then we're going to take whatever you get paid gross weekly if you're working at a company, and we're going to multiply times what? The number of weeks in a year, 52 divided by 12, right? That's how you do it. You don't multiply the weekly by 4. That's not how it works. But if you get paid monthly, then obviously we're going to just use that number. But if you get paid biweekly, how many biweekly payments are there in a year? 26. So we take your gross times 26 and then divide it by 12. The numbers are actually different, and it can make the difference between you being able to qualify for that 620 versus $600,000 purchase price, right? So these things are super, super important that the actual underwriter looks at. So when an underwriter looks at all your documentation, which again are these 4 areas, they're going to look at your bank statements, right? How much money do you have? Credit, income, and then your debts, because we're going to pull credit report. And in the credit report, by the way, not only are we going to see your credit scores, but we're going to see your debts, right? They're going to look at all these things and then issue what is the maximum that you will qualify for. When it comes to assets, are you getting a gift? That would qualify, right? What kind of income, right? On the income side, what kind of income are you getting? Are you getting Social Security and a pension and you're working, right? These things are super important. Now, when it comes to income and you're working for someone, we're going to look at the gross. But then we got to divide it into the different type of income categories. So you have your base, right? The base wages. Is it hourly or is it a salary? That makes a difference because we got to calculate how many hours you work a week if you're hourly. And then the other part is, do you get bonuses? Did you know that we can count bonuses, but you must have had them in the last 2 years, because we're going to average the last 2 years of bonuses. So just because you got a $50,000 bonus last month, but you've never received one since, you can't use it, right? Same thing goes with overtime. You got overtime last month, but you haven't received it prior to that. You have to have a 2-year history of overtime as well. Why is that? Because that's considered variable income. Why is it variable? Because it changes. So that's a different category of income altogether. How about if you're self-employed? Well, it's not what you pay yourself. We got to look at how much money is your business making. We got to do a cash flow analysis. And that's technically called the SAM analysis, which is schedule analysis method. That's where I do all that heavy lifting for you. You don't have to do any of that. We do that for you. But that income is going to be very different. When it comes to debts, let's talk about that for a second. Is that debt that you're going to pay off before you buy the home, right? How about if you co-signed for somebody's car? Maybe it was a cousin or another family member, and it shows up on your credit. Well, did you know that as long as they're on that same loan and they can prove that they've made at least 12 of the last 12 months payments, then we can remove that from your debts, even though it shows up on your credit report. It's these little nuances, right? The devil's in the details, as they say, right? This is the reason why it's so important for an underwriter to look at it. I'm going to obviously do the initial underwriting and submit it so that all they have to look at is very quickly and go, oh, yeah, Ed's calculations are correct, because I average 24 to 48 hours to get you fully approved, fully underwritten. It doesn't take this long, drawn-out process at all. Now let's talk about credit. Well, maybe credit is an issue, right? Maybe you have low credit scores. I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to get your credit scores up, or partner it up with a program that allows a lower credit score, because that's the other part too. So I have hundreds of programs. For example, assets. If you don't have money for a down payment, then let's get you a down payment assistance program, right? I even have a down payment assistance program that involves, believe it or not, solar equipment. If you want solar in your house, we can get it financed and also give you down payment assistance with that program. I have a special program that we just finished testing out. It's fantastic. So we could do that. By the way, going back to the credit, everybody's got 3 credit scores. Why is that? Because there's 3 companies that report credit: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. In the mortgage business, we use the median or the middle score. So let's say you have a 710, an 800, and a 790. What's your middle score? 790. That's the number that gets used. But what happens if there's more people who are going to be on the loan with you? Then we use whoever has the lowest of the median score. So guess what? You better pick people that have really good credit scores, that have credit scores as good as yours or better. Because if not, you're going to be the lowest credit scores, right? Because if your middle credit score is a 790, but your co-borrower's middle score is a 600, now we got to use the 600. And guess what's going to happen? Your interest rate's going to suffer, because interest rates are very sensitive to credit scores. Super important that you pick the correct people, right? What happens if they have a lot of debt? Well, guess what? We're going to divide the debt to your income and come up with what is called a debt to income ratio. That debt to income ratio, depending on the program, really is going to max out at 50%. But again, depending on the program, some of them allow a little bit higher, especially the government ones like VA, which, by the way, you can go, if you're a veteran, you can go with no down payment. And the rates are fantastic, as they should be, because we should honor you for your service, right? And there's no mortgage insurance, because other programs, when you put less than 20% down, you have to pay what is called PMI, private mortgage insurance, or get 2 loans to avoid paying the PMI. Again, these little details we'll go over in your complimentary strategy call. You don't have to write this down. We're going to go over this ad nauseum again. So there's programs for everything. If you're self-employed and you're not showing income on your tax returns, we have a cash flow loan. If you're an investor watching this and you say, hey, I'm not a first-time home buyer, Ed, but I'm an investor, but I'd like to buy property, but you know what? My finances and my taxes look a certain way because I implement certain tax strategies with my tax person, then we can do what's called a DSCR loan, which is a debt service coverage ratio loan, which means that we use the rents to qualify compared to the mortgage that you're going to be paying on that property. And again, we have hundreds of programs, so don't let any of these things deter you. Get on a plan. So let's just say that we can't help you right now after we look at it. You're not ready. Hey, a 24-year pro is going to set you up for success in the future. Let me tell you what you need to be working on so that in the very near future, you can buy a home, as opposed to what you think you need to work on. We're the experts. We've been doing this a long time. Let us show you exactly what you need to do. Laser precision, as opposed to what you think you need to do. Anything you want to chime in on that, Jose?
I think it's very important. I mean, especially in a very competitive market. As when I represent a seller, obviously I'm looking out for the seller's best interest. And one of the things that I look out for the seller is that whatever offers that are coming in, okay, how strong are those buyers going to be? Have they been pre-approved, or are they just got a pre-qual letter? How fast can they close? I mean, so, of course, there's also cash buyers too, but I mean, I don't think there's
that. By the way, is 30% of the market is, on average, 30% of all homes being purchased in the United States are all cash.
Yeah. So, but the thing is that, as I was pointing out, is that when a listing agent is looking at offers from prospective buyers, they're looking at the strength of the buyer. They're looking, okay, have you been pre-approved? All they need is just the appraisal contingency removed, even not even the appraisal is the contingency is removed. So where they make an offer without the appraisal contingency, as long as the better prepared you are to make an offer, you have all your ducks in a row, you have all your financial done, you have all your down payment ready, and then your offer, it will be a stronger offer, compared to other people that are just starting out. They got a pre-qual, and then they for some reason X, Y, or Z, they can't get pre-approved for what they thought, or they They have funds. They have money that's under the mattress, but it's not seasoned because they haven't been
Well,
taxed.
or the way they calculated the income, and then we calculate and go, no, that's not what you make, because they included the $50,000 bonus that I just said can't be included, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, guys, so when you get a fully underwritten approval, this is what Jose was saying. Then we can submit aggressive closing terms. We can say we can close in 14 days, right? Because your loan is already committed. We don't have to then go to, once you submit your offer, then go to the underwriter. We've already done all that, right? Being proactive is the number one key to success in real estate. You want to be able to beat, we've actually beat people with all cash because it's going to take them longer to get the cash than we can close. Because remember, sellers want to sell. That's why they're sellers. And the quicker they can do that, they can move on with their life, just like you want to move and buy a home. The quicker, the better, right? You don't want to be drawing out renting. It's the same thing. So offering very aggressive closing times is super important. And that's where getting pre-approved comes in. And that, like I said, takes 24 to 48 hours. It is not a long and drawn out process. And by the way, it costs you nothing with me. I don't charge application fees or any of that junk. I'm here to help. And again, our consultation is a complimentary one. And for those of you who decide to pull the trigger and get that consultation with us and you want to buy, we're going to throw in some extra incentives and we'll talk to you about that at that time. Any closing remarks, Jose? Winning lottery numbers or anything like that you got for us?
Hey, I've been trying, man. I haven't hit it yet. So one of these days. But other than that, I mean, all I can say is that, buying a property as soon as you can is the most important transaction in your life that you can do, because you will benefit from it. If you're younger, time is on your side. If you're older, well, you can still benefit from it, right? But
yeah.
But I mean,
I've had clients in their 60s and 70s buy a home. Unbelievable. They never quit. They never gave up on it, and neither should you.
Yeah. And so, it's a benefit that you're going to have. And of course, what other investment can you make where you're only investing part of it, instead of like in the stock market where you have to buy the whole stock? Here, you only buy 20% of it, invest 20%, and you're getting the full return of the equity compared to stocks.
That's a great point, because think about it, even your 401k. Your 401k is giving you a return on what? The amount of money you put in. And if your employer puts in, right? But okay, if you bought $1 million house, year one, it made you 60 grand. Has your 401k made you 60 grand in the last year? And if so, how much was the money that you put in? Because you're making a return on 100% of what you put in. In a home, you're making 100% return on a slice of what you put in. Very little skin in the game. And that's the key here, is to know how to leverage, right? OPM, as we say, other people's money. Let the bank float the majority of the skin in the game, and you get all of the benefits from doing that.
Yeah, there was a statistic. There was a study done. I forgot what the numbers were, but basically, what is the quickest way? Not the quickest way, but the most practical way to become a millionaire. And real estate was always the number one.
Well, I'll give you a better one. 84% of the Forbes 400, the richest people in the world, 84% of them have built the majority of the wealth through real estate. That's a fact, right? And so, hey, when in Rome, do like the Romans do, right? Let's go be Romans, real estate Romans, and do it that way, because I believe 100%, and I'm going to say this and I want to close with this, is that the saving grace of the middle class is going to be real estate, because otherwise, do you have money for Bitcoin? Right? And are you going to ride that wave? You can't live in Bitcoin. You can't do the tax write-off, right? You're going to get 100% of what you put in Bitcoin. I don't know what it's over 100 grand, but most people are not going to be able to build that kind of wealth putting in that amount of skin in the game. It's just not going to happen. But in real estate, for sure. And it's going to continue to go up. And if you talk to your grandparents, they never thought that their $30,000 or $60,000 home in San Francisco was going to be 1.3 or $1.6 million ever. They would have never, ever thought that was going to happen. But neither did we think that eggs were going to be $10 for a dozen either. Right? Man, those chickens they're made out of gold these days, man, or platinum or something. Even gold is not enough. But all this to say, folks, is that now's the time. Don't let the next 5 years, because here's the thing. What's your plan then? What's your plan for the next 5 years? And if your plan's better than what we have planned for you, buying real estate and showing you those numbers, and guess what? Let me know where we can sign up to your plan. But the 5 years that are coming are going to come quicker than the last 5 years. Don't let that happen to you. Look, the pandemic was almost 5 years ago. That's hard to believe. Look at all the things that have happened. Did anybody ever predict that it would be that crazy? I didn't think so. And look what's happened. I mean, we're in the history books, right? We all lived through this whole historical moment, and we're in the history books for sure. Now write your own personal history. Don't let politics, don't let the economics get in the way. You be the CEO and the politician of your own life and your own family, and do the right thing. Anything else you want to say, Jose? Besides, don't forget to book a complimentary strategy call with us. I promise you it's free and you're going to learn a lot.
I mean, all I can say is that, that I will try to help you as much as I can. This is not a sales pitch.
No.
This is here just to try to help you out. And if we can help you out, great. If not, at least we can try to get you ready for the future. And our ethical responsibility is to take care of you, the client. Yeah. It's not ourselves. It's for you.
Yeah, our moral compass is off the charts, guys. Honestly, you'll see it in the strategy call. We're not here to sell you anything. We just want to literally help you.
For us, at least for I know, and it's the same thing. Is that we're looking for people that to build relationships with. Because if we can do a good job for you, then we hope that you can recommend us to your family members or your friends, and that's all we want. We just want to help the community improve their wealth and have a better life, period.
Yeah, and we've seen what that's done. By the way, there's only one person we can't help. This is really important you know this. And that's where we want it more than you do. If we want the home more than we do, we can't help you. Sorry, right? But if you are really motivated to buy that house, I dare you to find a better advocacy group out there. We're going to go the 10th. We're going to go 100 miles extra for you. We will, and you'll see it. So book your strategy call. That's what's important. And let's just have a chat. Doesn't cost you anything. Doesn't obligate you to anything. It will absolutely give you clarity as to what you can actually do. And most of the time, you'll be very surprised. All right, my friends. On that note, have a fantastic weekend. I know the weather is shaped up, so go out there. Don't stay home. Go take in the nice weather and take in the nice air. And we will see you in the next one, because we're going to do more of these for sure. Thank you again, Jose. Have a great weekend, buddy. All right. See you later, everybody.